Hello, welcome to another track, guys. This week it is Imola. It's a bit of a Marmite track this week. It's you either love it or you hate it. And now the McLaren's pretty good round here with the bumps. I'm starting to really enjoy it. Whereas I think when I was driving the Ferrari, I really disliked this track. But yeah, hopefully this will help you find some speed this week. And yeah, let's get into it. So as you can see, we're on the home straight, nice and fast. Tuck this wall as much as possible on the right hand side. We're going to start getting ourselves ready to brake for turn 1. So as you can see, my braking reference, you have this sort of slip road here, and then this little bit of tarmac here. It's similar to like the slip road just before Ascari at Monza. So we're going to brake sort of just after it. I would advise that you start with this. Start with it, and once you get to turn 1, if you feel like you're slowing down way too much, then just change your braking point to about there. So brake's starting to go on now, and we're going to get ourselves set up for this chicane. And by doing that, we're going to send it, absolutely send it over this left part first, and only briefly touch the right hand side. The car is really good over this left hand curb, not so much over the right hand curb. You tend to bounce a little bit. I found myself sort of having the car bounce a lot, and yeah, I'll show you what I mean. I'll go through the whole section, and then we'll go through bit by bit. Okay, so that was all of it, and as you can see, we're going to get ourselves down into second gear, and then as you reach the corner here, this is your first sort of apex here, and we're taking a lot of curb. As you can see, we're going to full throttle over the curb, and then upshift to start taking this right curb, and upshift to third early if you feel like you need like sort of the traction, I suppose. So third over that curb, get right a little bit here, so come right a little bit, ideally maybe a little bit more so you can take that left a bit smoother, but it depends how much speed you're carrying and what you have to play with in terms of space and all that. So yeah, I would recommend trying to get a little bit further right before you take this left. But again, it's not the end of the world, because of the McLaren being able to take the curbs. You can really just smash it over this curb on the left hand side. As you can see, we're about to take that curb now. Full throttle all the way through, and then I'm going to get ourselves set up for the second chicane. We have a brake marker here where the 50 is, and you're going to have to sort of just judge it where you're side by side with the 50, slam it on the brakes over the curb on this left hand side, lift off the brake before you hit the curb, and then once you've gone over the curb, get back on the brake. So I'll play it in full, and then we'll go through it bit by bit again. Okay, so coming up to the brake marker. There's the 50 on our what would feel like to our immediate right, and then we're going to aim for the curb. Make sure that your car doesn't go fully over the curb, as in like the middle of the car is hitting this curb, because it still has the ability to send you up up to the moon, really. So you want to sort of have maybe like a third of the car over the curb. If you're loading up the right hand wheels a lot, then you can probably get away with it as well. But if you're not going very fast, or you're braking just a little bit too much or a little bit earlier, that was weird. There's all my metal clips. We're going to so if you find that if you're going a little bit slower into here, try not to take a lot of this curb, because you might find that it bumps you up. So there's the brake, and then we're going to send it over this curb, as you can see. But I'm already off the brake, so I've lifted off the brake, and then the moment I get over the curb, we're going to get back on the brakes full. So over the curb, back on the brakes, to then turn in for this right-hander. Don't take all of the curb. Again, this is a pretty nasty curb, and you're slowing down, so you haven't got the luxury of just sending it over at full speed, because it can unsettle the car a little bit. I mean, it's going to unsettle the car anyway, but it could do it just a little bit more and push you into the gravel. What I do here is sort of borderline. We're going to stay in third, by the way, all the way through this. Some of you like to go down to second, maybe start with that, and then once you've built up a bit of confidence and you're getting your lines right, maybe stay in third so that you're not dragging as much speed off, and you've got to keep that minimum speed through the chicane, and that's where you're going to find time on this track. A lot of it is carrying more speed through the corners. It's nothing to do with the straights. It's just about your exits from the important corners, so like the last corner onto the straight, and the hairpin that we're about to come up to, and the chicane, the last chicane. Those three exits are really important for getting time, but the rest of it is just carrying as much speed as possible through all the corners, because there's a lot of corners on this track. So we're in third, just about to go over this apex, and then a little bit late getting on the power, but again, you've got to try and gauge it with how fast you're actually going. So you see how close I am to the gravel. I even touch a wheel on it there. Now we're going to use the 50 as our braking reference. Maybe just go a little bit after the 50. Start. I mean, I keep saying go a little bit after, but build your confidence with the 50, and then start experimenting by doing little increments later. So there's our 50. We're starting to get on the brake now, whereas some people will be 100% brake at the 50. And then we're going to be lifting off down into first. We're going to be lifting off a little quite early, actually. I'll get to the point of where we actually lift. So we're trailing in here, and we're already upshifted back up to second. So short shift to second, but use first to get slowed down, and try and hug this corner as much as possible. Don't I know it looks like it's quite a good corner for staying left and then sending it up in like a straight line. You've actually got more speed if you sort of follow this corner round, but be careful of this inside curb. So we're going to get on the power at the apex there, full power, and then power out as much, and you make the full use of the track. So this curb here is very slippery, incredibly slippery. Do not get your wheels on this curb at all, because the second that you do, because you're turning in so much as well, your car is just going to get dragged in, and you're losing time, you're spinning out, anything. So full power out of second, get yourself up the hill. So again, we've got the 50. I would use this to start with again, and then maybe start experimenting with going just a bit after, but start with the 50. Stay in third, gear down to third, and then we're aiming here to get on this power, get on the power at this apex. Again, I've said it in all my videos. Power on at the apex is the best, is the fastest way through most corners, and this is where you're going to find your time. If you're able to get yourself in a position where you can get to here and you can full throttle, that's going to be so much better than carrying too much speed through here and then getting on the power about here. You've already lost the time here. So there's the apex. Again, use the curb. Get the car over the curb because it can smash it. And we're getting them back on the power. Full power out. Your track limits are here, or it might be there actually. Either way, the track limits aren't very friendly at this corner. Be very careful of this one in particular. Let's see how wide we go. Yeah, we're there. So the track limits must be this red line here. And then we're going to get ourselves down to Acque Minerali, one of the toughest corners in probably GT3 racing, let alone this track, even though this track has a few tough corners itself, including the chicane. So, how best to explain this? Well, I'll play it through in full here, and then we'll break it down. So there's the example. So you can see the 50. We're going to ignore it. And we're still on full throttle, and as you can see, I'm about to get onto the brake. So I would start experimenting halfway between the 50 and the corner. So maybe about there, full throttle till you're there, and then begin to brake. So we're about halfway there now. Full brake, and then you're off the power, and lift off the brake as you go over this bump. Again, smash that curb, and then run the car out to this left-hand side. A lot of people tend to tuck in a lot, so they'll hit this, or they'll take a wider line and try and like sort of hug the tarmac up here. Whereas, even though it can be slippery, this bit here, the actual curb there is still quite rubbered up, and you do have grip there. And maximising the track there is going to allow you to get on the power much earlier up the hill, and powering on at the apex here. So we're lifted off over the curb. Then once we've got over the curb, back on the brakes. Back on the brakes, full brake. Run it out wide here. Your track limits will be for your right tyre around here. So if you're going out there, you're probably going to spin out. But maximise this track here so that we can then turn in nicely for this bit, and then get on the power around here up the hill. So we're going to start trailing in at this point and turn in, and then here's the apex here, and we're going to try and get on the power as much as possible. So there's the power up now, and then be careful. Obviously I got a bit of oversteer there. You've got to just control the car through it, and then be careful of the track limits here. Track limits here are horrible, so if you're getting your wheels sort of on here, you've probably invalidated track limits, because your right wheel, I believe, is around here is your track limits. It could be that, but it's act like it's that, and you'll be fine. So I try to keep my left wheels to the right side of these sausages, and that way I know I'm within track limits every time. I think most people do it that way as well. Take a little bit of a wider line on the exit. So here, if you hug this absolutely up, there's a bump here which you'll see me hit, but it's not so bad with the line I take. If you go over there, you'll hit it, and it's a bit more pronounced, and you just scrub a tiny bit of speed off. And that's what this track is about, just finding tiny little bits of speed everywhere. There was that bump you can see, and now we're coming up to the chicane. So this is again another pain in the arse corner, well, set of corners for the track. Again, a very technical track. So we're going to start getting on the brakes here. So use this as your braking point, and then start experimenting with how good your brakes are on your car and how confident you feel. So the brakes on now, and we're going to go down to second. Stay in second, don't gear down to first. And once we're about halfway up this, like the Italian flag strip, we're going to start our turn in. So there's the brake, halfway up, start your turn in. Now, the best way through this chicane, for me, the best way, it's not necessarily the best way, but the most consistent way through the chicane without getting a track invalidation and trying to keep as much speed up as possible, is to try and get your right wheel onto here. So use this as your marker to get your right wheel on. So as you're turning in, you feel like your right wheel is going over that sausage curb that I just highlighted there. And then for the left hand side, you're going to be roughly doing the same thing but with your left wheel. So here's the turn in, left wheel over that curb, and then once you've got over that curb, get on the power. Try and keep it as straight as possible so that you're not fighting it on the exit, and then you have a successful chicane. So there's your brake, here's your turn in, right wheel onto that right bit, left wheel onto there, onto your left side. As soon as you get over, full power in second, fight the car a little bit on the exit. Your track limits are here, but I believe they actually follow this point here as well. So if you stayed on that curb and didn't move over, I believe you'd actually invalidate your lap here, because I've invalidated my laps a couple of times around here, and I think it's because I didn't get back on the track soon enough. Now this lap in particular has been my personal best, but I screw up these last two corners by getting on the gravel. So what you're about to see is me explaining what not to do, but by showing you what I did wrong. So stay left there, turn in, and then our 100 board is going to be our braking point. Try and brake. Try and be at 100% brake as you hit the 100 board. If you start braking, maybe bang on that, you might overshoot the corner a little bit, depending on your field of view. But just try it. Just like experiment. Maybe start with braking bang on the 100, and then maybe reel it in a little bit, because your fastest way through these last corners is to make sure that you're hitting the apex and not overshooting them. So here, down into second, use first, and then upshift to second if you can. So I've already shifted down into first to get the car slowed down and turned in. Now upshift to second, and then try and get on the power as you hit this apex here. So there's the apex, which I sort of missed, and the result of me missing that meant that when I got on the power, it pushes me out a little bit further onto this gravel bit. So use as much track as possible, keep your right wheel at maximum there. So yeah, I got a little bit of a snap of oversteer, and then for the second part, you're going to use this point here as the curb comes back in. That's going to be your braking point essentially. So it's come back in, the curb's come back in. You're going to brake and then get yourselves over this curb, and we're going to upshift to third as well. And the brake, it's just going to be a dab of brake. So it wasn't even full brake, it was literally just a dab, and then roll through, hit that curb up to third, and then full power out. Maximise the track. Be careful of getting as this curb ends. Be careful of getting a wheel on the gravel. You'll just drag free time off and speed. It's imperative in race situations. It's imperative to get this exit right, because this is going to be one of the only places in the track where someone can really challenge you into sort of the first corner. And if you get a good exit here, you've got a really good chance of defending. Whereas if you hit this gravel, you've dragged that speed off, you've given them the slipstream and the chance to overtake you because you've got the poor speed. And yeah, that's how people do it here. Now I will cover the pit entry. So this line here, use that as a reference for your pit entry braking. So as you hit it, just over the line, so probably about here, apply the brakes, so about now, and then that will get you braked, slowed down enough for the pit entry. It might be just a little bit too early, so again, experiment, but use that as your starting reference and then build from there. Hug this corner as much as possible, but not too much that you invalidate. You can actually get a car's width through there and invalidate your lap. So just be very careful that you're keeping your left wheel at least in the track. Yeah, it's definitely happened to me before where I've taken this corner, been a little bit too far to the right here, and it's actually invalidated the lap. And that is it. That's your full lap of Imola. I hope you enjoyed the guide. If you did, smash that like button. Give me thumbs up, everything. Subscribe to Pit Skill, subscribe to the channel, blah blah blah, all that jazz. I hope it helped. I'm going to play the full lap for you, and I'll see you for next week's laps and guides, which will be the Hungaroring. And if you're competing in this Wednesday's Imola VIP race on Pit Skill, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you have fun, and I hope this guide helped you get faster. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.